It's an exciting sound, you know, the burner coming on. I'm Zainab. I'm a food writer, a food developer, a food eater. I'm super excited because I'm going to be making samosas with you. We're going to be making two types of fillings for the samosa. One is a spicy potato and pea filling, and the other one is a spiced minced chicken filling. And these are pretty much the classic kinds of samosas that you find all across Pakistan. When you get a samosa from a street vendor or a restaurant, they're the ones that the dough is made from scratch. They end up being larger. And the ones we make at home tend to be using store-bought spring roll wrappers. They're convenient, but honestly, they're also much more crispy. And I think the key to a really, really delicious samosa is that juxtaposition of the textures, that crispy outside and the mushy inside with the spicy filling. The potato samosa, we're going to prepare the filling. Potatoes don't look great, but they are going to taste delicious. Don't judge a book by its cover. I know we're all taught that, and same goes for potatoes. So in Pakistan, samosas are everywhere. You go to a friend's house, there's samosas. Your aunt's house, there's samosas. Cousin's house, grandparents' houses, there's always samosas. Kind of the perfect complement to a culture where the pop by or the pop in is prevalent. What I'm looking for is almost no resistance when I put in the butter knife. There. We're just gonna set the potatoes aside in a bowl to cool. I grew up eating samosas, but I think I ate the most samosas in Ramzan. There's something about a really long day of fasting. A samosa kind of just does it for you. In a few bites, it's instantly satiating, and it tastes delicious, and you know, it's like, it feels great. All right, you want to roughly smush the potatoes. So we're not looking for like a smooth mash. Ooh. Ramzan is about fasting and taking care of your spiritual self, but Ramzan is also about eating a lot. You want to make sure that whatever pan you're using is big enough for the potatoes. If you're used to cooking desi food, it's pretty likely that you're gonna have all of these spices. Actually, you can make samosas with any filling that you like. All you have to figure out is the filling itself can't be too moist, because the moisture from the filling is going to make the outside a little bit soggy. I'm gonna swirl it. Put this in there. Also, don't worry if you can't mix it super evenly right now, because you'll have a chance to do that again in the bowl anyway. Smells delicious. It's one of my favorite smells. If I smell this, I feel like I'm at home. One thing I definitely learned when I moved to the US, people have some very strong feelings about cilantro. I really don't mind having a cilantro leaf in my samosa. The filling is a bit more punchy, more spicy. The samosa wrapper is definitely going to dampen the filling a little bit because it doesn't have any spice or salt in it. That's delicious. While it cools down, we can get started on our keema filling. Anytime a recipe calls for toasting spices, start with toasting your spices and setting them aside. The color might change slightly, but it's really hard to tell, so I would go off the smell. Yeah, I can smell it. It smells delicious. You can turn it off. If you cook desi food a lot, you probably already have this in your fridge. And if you don't cook desi food a lot, I highly recommend cooking desi food a lot. What you can do is just grate some ginger or grate some garlic. Ginger, garlic, onion, The best samosa I've ever had is my school canteen. They had these chunky potatoes and peas and extremely, extremely spicy in the best possible way. If you ever get a chance to go to Lahore, go to my school, go to the canteen and get a samosa. I'm going to lower the heat and I'm going to add the cumin seeds. You want to do it on super low heat so that the spices don't burn, because they can burn really, really quickly, really easily. Chicken's in. Because the meat's in the pan, you can turn up the heat. The chicken's going to release some water. You want to make sure that when you stir it, there's no liquid left behind. That's it. That's very good. All right, So we have our minced chicken filling along with our potato and pea filling, which is over there. We need our glue. It's going to form kind of a paste, and that paste is what will bind the samosa. And also it'll help us fill any holes that we might have in the corners. The samosa is a really forgiving pastry, so just have fun with it. We have the store-bought pastry wrapper. You're aiming to start with a pastry that's shaped like a rectangle with the ratio of 3:1. Resist making it too mathy. I become the math meme for a little while. Just get a rectangle. You just want to make sure that you have 3 stacks of 3 rectangles. What's the saying? Measure twice, cut once. We want to put it under a damp cloth because we don't want it to dry out while we're working with it. Peel off one of the rectangles. It's like strangely satisfying to peel this off. They feel like they're really delicate, but they're pretty resilient. So we want to take the bottom right corner of the rectangle, fold it across the opposite length of the rectangle. You'll see a shadow, the shadow of this triangle here. That's a good predictor of what shape the samosa is going to end up being. The next thing we want to do is align this outer length with this length of the rectangle. So I'm going to pick this up, fold it across, ooh, like that. And now I have this little pocket to fill. It's kind of like a cone. I'm going to pick it up, put it in my hands, and I'm going to fill it with 1 teaspoon of filling, maybe a bit more, probably just about 1 teaspoon. And the next thing we want to do is align this length here with this length on this side. Just like that. In order to seal it and close it off, you want to put the thinnest layer of this glue that we just made, just flour and water, on the flap, close it off. That's it. Here we go. Learning to make a samosa is a little bit like riding a bicycle. Once you know how to do the fold, you never really forget it. It just comes back to you when you have these rectangles in front of you. I remember I made samosas with my mom a long time ago. Maybe I was 12. And then when I moved to the US, I tried to do it again. And it kind of just came to me. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. Now we're going to do the potato ones. I've never had a samosa that wasn't spicy. I've not even had a samosa that's not spicy, that's masquerading as a samosa. So if you're not gonna make the filling spicy, you should probably just call it something else. When food has been around for so long, it does evolve and it comes to mean so much to so many different people. People really attach some level of their identity to foods that have just been part of cultural identities for hundreds of thousands of years. It makes sense why people would be sensitive about how something is made and what the proper way is, what the right way is, what the best way is, you know? It's so closely linked to who we think we are or how we perceive ourselves and our roots. We have assembled, filled, wrapped, and sealed all of our samosas. At this point, we have a choice to make. We can either freeze our samosas and use them later, or we can fry or bake them right away. What I'm going to do is a little bit of both. I'm going to fry some and I'm going to bake some so we can have a look at how those turn out. If you're expecting a lot of people or you're having a party, the best way to do that would be to bake them. That's the oven. You don't have to actively watch the frying process. Stick them in the oven, hang out with your guests, and when they're done, feed them. If it's just like 2 or 3 people and you're not making that many samosas, then I would recommend shallow frying them. It takes about 10 minutes or less, and you have snacks at the ready. That's kind of the color that you are looking for on your samosa. It's like solid. A lot of people will have ketchup with their samosas. I find the best chutney to have with samosas is a mint and cilantro chutney. What we're really looking for here is this kind of crunch factor. Let's see. This is the potato one. And I get some chutney. I hope you can hear that. All right, let's see what this one tastes like. The cool thing about samosas is it's a super old snack. I think the earliest mention of it is in Persian poetry from the 8th or 9th century. It has had an influence on almost every kind of pastry that's stuffed with either chicken or minced meat, and it has endured, evolved, traveled. It's probably because it's delicious. I'm just eating more. I should stop.